These days, there's a lot of talk about the Samsung labor union. Because of that, there's also talk within TSMC about going on strike. Today, let's take a proper look at this topic. Let's take a look right away. The Taiwanese economic newspaper, Liberty Times, has published a rather significant report on the current atmosphere inside TSMC. It says that dissatisfaction among TSMC employees is growing rapidly. The reason is the rumor about performance bonus cuts. TSMC has been paying employees a certain percentage of its quarterly profits as performance bonuses and rewards. The payment equals about 13 months of salary over 2 years. However, recently, rumors have started spreading on TSMC-related online communities and internal bulletin boards that performance bonuses could be cut by up to 15%. From the employees' perspective, this was inevitably a very sensitive issue for them. Currently, TSMC is building about 12 new semiconductor plants in multiple countries, including the United States, Japan, Germany, and Taiwan. The annual facility investment for these is reportedly as much as 76 trillion to 82 trillion won. In the industry, there is speculation that TSMC may be trying to reduce performance bonuses in order to cover these massive investment costs. The issue is the timing. TSMC's first quarter profits this year increased by 58% compared to last year. Even though they recorded their highest ever performance, there is talk of cutting performance bonuses. As a result, internal backlash was inevitable. In fact, some employees expressed dissatisfaction, questioning why employee compensation is being reduced when the company has made its highest profits in history. Other employees criticized that only shareholders benefit. As news from the Korean semiconductor industry spread, tensions rose further. Reports that Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix are paying large performance bonuses have also reached Taiwan, especially as the activities of the Samsung Electronics labor union were mentioned. Some TSMC employees began to say that maybe they should form a union like Samsung. In some online communities, there is even talk of going on strike. So how large are TSMC's performance bonuses really? According to what is currently known, the total amount of TSMC's performance bonuses for 2025 is about 8 trillion won calculated per employee. This means each TSMC employee would receive about 100 million won on average. By general standards, that's quite a high amount. However, since the comparison is being made with Korean semiconductor companies, the internal atmosphere at TSMC is becoming unsettled. Industry projections suggest Samsung Electronics memory division employees could receive average performance bonuses of about 710 million won. SK Hynix is also being mentioned as giving out performance bonuses averaging about 750.31 million won. Especially with the boom in AI semiconductors, performance has surged, making the scale of bonuses much larger than in the past. News like this is spreading quickly even in Taiwan. So it's natural that TSMC employees are becoming dissatisfied. It's the world's largest foundry and a leader in the AI semiconductor era, but many feel its employee compensation lags behind competitors. Additionally, the company has reached record high performance, yet there's talk of cutting bonuses, leading to more internal backlash. However, many analysts say that the possibility of an actual strike at TSMC is still low. The main reason is that there is no labor union. Since its founding in 1987, TSMC has maintained a no-union management policy. Within Taiwan, TSMC has been regarded as a company with a very strong control structure. Because of this, some employees are even suggesting that they should form a new labor union. However, that's not an easy issue either. If it had been easy to form a union within TSMC, it's likely that a labor union would have been established a long time ago. Even in Taiwan, it's seen as a company with strong organizational control. Because the semiconductor industry is sensitive to security issues, the company prioritizes strict internal discipline and controls. Because of this, the atmosphere of employees openly discussing collective action is being seen as a very unusual situation. However, recently there is an assessment that the atmosphere has definitely changed compared to before. This is because employees' complaints are no longer confined internally, but are spreading publicly through online communities. In particular, on the D-Card TSMC board, which is known as the Taiwanese version of Blind, harsh comments keep being posted. People are asking, should we form a union like Samsung? Would there be legal issues? And with company profits soaring, why are employees getting less? What's important here is that if this atmosphere continues for a long time, it could even affect the political sphere. TSMC is a company deeply connected to Taiwan's economy, its GDP, and exports. Because its influence on the job market is so great, if this turns into a social controversy, the political world can't help but feel pressured. If young engineers' dissatisfaction increases, it could extend to labor policy or corporate governance issues. That's why it's not easy for TSMC to leave the current situation unattended for long. The bigger problem is that the company's explanation is still lacking. Currently, regarding the rumors of performance bonus cuts, TSMC has not provided a clear stance. The exact payment criteria or whether there will be cuts has also not been disclosed. From the employee's perspective, the less information they have, the more anxious they become. Especially internally, there are reactions questioning why the company isn't explaining the compensation criteria when its performance is at its best. There is also analysis suggesting that if this situation continues, it could lead to trust issues between employees and management. TSMC is extremely important to Taiwan. Currently, Taiwan is considered a country responsible for over 90% of the world's advanced semiconductor production, and at the center of this overwhelming production capacity is TSMC, the world's largest foundry company. TSMC virtually monopolizes the production of key chips for major US tech companies like Nvidia, Apple, and AMD. The entire US high-tech industry, including artificial intelligence, smartphones, data centers, and military systems, relies on this company. This means that Taiwan is not just a simple semiconductor producing country. It also means that Taiwan is a core hub of global technological civilization. This structure has served as a very strong shield for Taiwan. China has ramped up military and political pressure on Taiwan for years, but the semiconductor issue is a major reason it hasn't acted. If Taiwan were to be attacked, TSMC's production facilities would also be targeted. The moment these production facilities stop, the global semiconductor supply chain would immediately fall into chaos. Artificial intelligence, servers, smartphones, cars, and weapon systems would all be impacted in a chain reaction. Major American companies would also face situations where they can't procure key components, and some companies might not only have to halt production, but could even face threats to their very existence. This has led the international community, especially the US and Western Bloc, to view the Taiwan issue not simply as a regional dispute, but as a matter of the global economy and technological dominance. If Taiwan is attacked, it would impact the global economy, leading to the widespread belief that the United States must intervene. This reasoning is called the Silicon Shield theory. Taiwan's key role in the global semiconductor industry has made its existence a military deterrent. For China as well, the moment China moves against Taiwan, it could lead to an economic war against the entire Western world, including the United States, so they have not been able to make a decision easily. However, it's unlikely Taiwanese political circles will simply watch as TSMC, crucial to this Silicon Shield, begins to falter. That's because the Taiwanese economy itself is deeply connected to TSMC. TSMC is a company that affects everything from Taiwan's exports and employment to tax revenue and advanced industrial competitiveness. If internal conflicts persist and key personnel remain dissatisfied, it could destabilize the entire Taiwanese economy. Especially now, global semiconductor companies are actively scouting Taiwanese engineers. Companies in the US, Japan, and Europe are pouring huge amounts of money into securing advanced semiconductor talent. In fact, the US is making moves to recruit a large number of Taiwanese engineers to foster its own semiconductor industry. Japan is also competing to secure talent, focusing on the TSMC Kumamoto plant. Additionally, Intel, Micron, and global semiconductor equipment firms are stepping up efforts to recruit semiconductor talent. So there is a possibility that key personnel may leave TSMC. The problem is, if this situation repeats, TSMC's long-term competitiveness itself could be shaken. And if TSMC's competitiveness weakens, it could also affect the strategic value that Taiwan has maintained up until now. The US and Western Bloc are currently sensitive about Taiwan mainly due to TSMC and the advanced semiconductor supply chain. If TSMC starts to falter due to internal conflicts and manpower issues, the Silicon Shield effect could also become weaker than before. Because of this, it will be difficult for TSMC to simply brush off the situation right now. Especially if employee dissatisfaction accumulates over the long term, there will likely be increasing pressure to come up with measures such as revising the bonus system, adjusting the compensation structure, or expanding employee benefits. Some analysts are saying that what TSMC needs right now is not just to expand its production facilities, but also to restore internal trust so they can retain their key personnel in a stable way.